You say you will learn that meditation does not require a lot of focus or concentration, rather the opposite, and that it can actually be a joyful journey of eye openers. It is journey from effort to effortlessness, from activity to stillness, and from stress, anxiety, and frustration to a state of peace and tranquility. One thing that I would like to emphasize, though, is that meditation is so much more than just a solution to some of these problems that many of us face. Now, I want to connect it to something way ahead in the book. There's a line you say,
Bring it on.
we have given away we have given away the control over our happiness, and now it's time to take it back. Obviously, you're weaning people in the context of the book towards something that you call is happiness. Now, my question is this to you, Swamiji: what is happiness? And then a follow-up to that: what is us or I? I mean, that's a fundamental question, right? Obviously, you're at a you're on the podcast of a guy who dabbles in philosophy, so I will have to ask you those questions, because
Yeah, yeah. No,
if we
you have to
don't
do. You have to keep up
yeah,
your
yeah,
reputation.
if
No?
yes, otherwise people will throw metaphorical stones at me. So
Yes.
how, what does it mean, Swamiji, to be happy then, according to you?
Yeah. So I think that's important to add. I would only feel comfortable answering this where I say this is something that I'm sharing from my based on my experience and my understanding.
Sure.
I in no way pretend to speak for the whole of humanity and other civilizations that may be there. But if we look at happiness, many times we feel that we need to somewhere we have maybe been taught also that we need certain things to be happy, and it creeps in very subtly because as a small child you see we are happy naturally anywhere in the world. A small child, it can be playing in the mud with a pebble or chewing on a lollipop or just looking at a bird and it's happy. But then somewhere along the way this thing creeps in that, oh, we need to do something to get that or to become happy. And it can be anything. Okay, you finish school, get a good job, career, marry someone, become famous, whatever it may be, or become enlightened. Or but if we really look at it, whenever you feel really good, happy, many times, if you honestly pause and say, okay, why am I feeling like this? It's very difficult to pinpoint. Someone may even ask you, why are you so happy today? You may be whistling while on your way to the office and someone asks you why you're so happy. I don't know. I feel very good. I feel happy. But if you ask someone who is miserable that why are you miserable, 99% of the times you'll get a whole story, because that person did this to me and that didn't happen, or God knows what. There's so many reasons to complain. But if we look at it, we don't need a reason to be happy. You need a reason to be unhappy.
Mm.
And that way, if you see, then even when you look at the yogic scriptures, they say that yes, there is a part of your consciousness which is blissful. Whether we want, like, because I have to little bit, at least somewhere meet you on your level. So whether we talk about the nature of consciousness, where they say Satchidananda, or we talk about the Anandamaya Kosha, or there is in many ways there is an intrinsic connection between a state of our consciousness that is not superficial, so that is more lasting, more eternal, that is more us, to come to your second question also a little bit, and that being happy. So happiness is not an outside or a foreign thing. Rather, it's something that gets covered or veiled, or that we are not able to experience. And it has also been my experience that whenever, to put it in a very practical way, whenever people are able to get rid of their tiredness and maybe their craving, aversions, their stress, their traumas, then inside they are already happy. Like, we have worked in places like high security prisons. I have personally worked in prisons with militants also in the Northeast. People who have been living in the jungle, just living on whatever they can find in the armed conflict or whatever it may be. We have worked with people who were afflicted by natural calamities, whether it's a flood or tsunami, or in all kinds of such scenarios where I have personally witnessed people with a regular practice of some of the breathing techniques we taught them, meditation, and some insight in how to manage their mind, where in a matter of sometimes even just weeks, we could see such a drastic transformation. And we have people who have been through such terrible things, like who were definitely by all parameters traumatized, and that resulted in maybe them being very violent or whatever, who are now doing tremendous service to society, to other people. Like they're really transformed person, but it's because they were able to tap into something that was still there by removing some of those strains, stresses, traumas, whatever was there. And of course, these are extreme cases, but it applies to our day-to-day life as well. I'm sure most people have this experience that sometimes uh, for whatever reason you had a really good sleep, or you were able to just drop everything for a moment, and you're just sitting at home having a drink, or sitting in the garden or at the beach, and suddenly you feel so wonderful, and it doesn't need anything special. So to me, I would say, if I try to answer that question, happiness is it's our nature. It's a state where you are consciously experiencing your state of being that is not colored or affected by either an internal or external stress, you can say. Uh, and when it comes to us, who are we? Yeah, this is a very tricky question, because I mean, I have studied a little bit of the different darshanas, but I'm definitely a fond, I'll not say staunch maybe, but a very fond um, well, let's say follower of Advaita Vedanta. So there, when we talk about non-duality, the word us itself becomes problematic, because that already implies
Yeah.
there is more than one.
Because you do talk about it in your book, right, Swamiji? You say my
Yes,
thoughts, my mind, my
yes,
memories, and my feelings. I remember that bit from your book because I've highlighted it, and
yes,
because I was like, I'm not going to be in a position to ask him many questions which he has mentioned in this book. So what is it like? So okay, I'll give you the Western, right? Descartes said, "I think, therefore I am." Right? Descartes
yeah.
had the famous line which he said. Now, now, from a Advaitin point of view, am I the one thinking then?
Or who is thinking, or what is thinking? Yeah,
Yeah,
there is this
that's
one
right.
one story. I believe I don't, I think I mentioned it in the book as well. I'm not sure, but there's this incident where they say Adi Shankaracharya, one of the great proponents of Advaita Vedanta, was on his travels of teaching people these insights and trying to make them realize that yes, this is all like a dream. It's all Maya. And then an elephant became wild, out of control, and he came running down the marketplace, and Adi Shankaracharya started running, because a wild elephant is very dangerous. You get trampled, or so. Then some of the bystanders, so goes the story, were making little fun of him, and they said, come on, you have been teaching us that this is all Maya. So why are you running? That elephant is also Maya. So then he said a very beautiful thing. He said, yes, that's true, but my running is also Maya. So the tricky thing is, like, one is that vyavaharika satya, like what is in our interaction. Because if we only talk about a supreme or higher reality, where you say this is all non-dual consciousness, this is a play and display of that one, whatever universal fabric, then I couldn't even write a book, udri khatam. So if we talk about, and because, for let's be honest, for, well, at least say most people, this is also not our experience. So when we
Hmm.
experience, we feel in our day-to-day interactions that yes, I feel separate from the person next to me, and I feel like the same way I feel more attached, or I feel more concerned about my child and maybe not the neighbor's child. So that means we have a limited purview perspective of reality. There are certain things which we feel are mine, and then of course, now what is that? So that somewhere there is an attachment, and then who am I? Of course, in the book, that's what I try to at least take people by the hand and make them take that first few steps. Of course, you have had the privilege and the inner calling to explore this in a much broader way, but for many people, even though somewhere we know that I'm not just the body, because sometimes you say, oh, my body is hurting, or well, my body feels very heavy, so somewhere, knowingly unknowingly, we know that we are separate. But very few people have consciously really looked at it. The same way that my mind, we get so disturbed, all kinds of thoughts that we may have, but we forget it because we can see those thoughts, we can observe the mind. That means in some way we are something that is still separate from it. We are able to witness that. So that journey, like you say, even yes, my feelings, but because I can say my feelings, it also means I'm not my feelings, or not just those feelings, because I'm still something that is able to observe it. And then when you take that further, then you come to a point where you realize, oh, that all those things that I'm so worried about, or that are, you can say, all my weaknesses, weak spots, or my I am something that is separate from that. And when you realize that, oh yes, there is a part of me that is untouched, that is unaffected by the circumstances, by the experiences I go through, that can be a great source of strength or solace, especially in a time like this where people have seen that many of those things that they tend to rely on for their sense of security, their sense of peace of mind, have started shaking. I know in Europe, um, of course, the pandemic, just like many other places, was terrible. But just when people thought, okay, this is kind of sorted, now we have a conflict between Russia and Ukraine, and for many people, again, it's like, oh God, like everything is suddenly very uncertain. What if? So to still maintain that peace of mind, you can say, to still be able to move on with your life without feeling life is a struggle, and to still be able to appreciate the beauty that is there around us, we need to have a certain sense of stability, centeredness, and uh, that can only come when we turn inward, look inward, and also consciously start at least getting a glimpse or experiencing that, oh yes, but despite all this, there is a part of me that is unaffected, that is a silent witness.